Hello.
Oh,
Hey, welcome to the Cult Bar, everybody. How are you doing, Renee?
good.
Good. Hanging in there after the new year. You're
Yeah.
all okay after this?
I mean, I'm still exhausted. I took a nap at like 9 o'clock on New Year's Eve so I could make it to midnight.
Oh, I didn't even take a nap. I was just like, I'm going to bed. I didn't even wait. So
Fair enough.
yeah. You made it to Easter Coast New Year's. I
Yeah,
didn't even make it that far.
and Central Time.
Yeah,
No,
that's
no, not Central Time because I took a nap. So there you go.
mm, there is that. So anyway, folks, welcome to the Cult Bar. Yeah, so this week we have a lot to get to, as always. I took way too many notes as usual.
Yeah.
But before we do any of that, we got some news. Maybe if I hit the right thing. My apologies.
So this one, I mean, I don't know if this is a deep cut or not because I'm familiar with these guys.
I'm not.
So just real quick, if the headline doesn't give it away, trigger warning for sexual abuse.
Ugh.
This cult was like one of these, Silicon Valley has all this weird shit, right? Like you'll hear about people who like buy blood transfusions off of younger people to stay young, and there's all these like wellness and self-improvement things. And this was kind of like that, but it was about getting women off, which like on its face seems like pretty okay, right? Like
Yeah,
close the orgasm gap. It's great, except
great.
it was a weird cult. Um, and they basically told you they were going to teach you orgasmic meditation, which involved like the woman would be like on a throne of pillows, and the guy would just like get her off, and then not have anything for himself. Which again, on its face, it's not wholly bad if you're into that.
Right.
However, it became culty. They were there's all kinds of stuff going on with this. The newest thing now is some of the people who were in it are saying that they were forced to do orgasmic meditation and have sex with investors, possible new members, things like that, and that it was essentially a prostitution ring. So
Wonderful.
we are going to, I guess, find out what happens. The lawsuit has just started. Um, it'll be interesting. Another thing I read today is that France is making moves like we heard about in the UK to expand their laws to make it easier to bust cults.
Hmm.
So there's just a lot going on in the cult universe right now. I would say these are all good things, people being held to account, but
Yeah, agreed. So this is not something I'd heard of. So yeah, the problem is with cults, anytime the sex gets involved, it is rarely a thing where there's not a lot of SA and stuff like that going on, unfortunately.
I do have to say that this cult that is focused entirely on a woman's clitoris being called One Taste has never ceased to amuse me.
What a name. Yeah, because the link, it's like when I put it up, said One Taste, the organ. I was like, oh, okay. All right.
Oh yeah, no, it's
All right.
exactly what it sounds like.
Mm. Okay, well, that's an interesting way to start the show. So, hooray on that.
Let's have an interesting one because man, I feel like this is maybe the darkest one we've done so far. The documentary anyway, not the cult itself necessarily, but the documentary.
Yeah, maybe. So the one we're going to talk about today is going to be Love as One, the cult of Mother God, which is an interesting way to phrase it. But before we start, we do have to talk about our beverages. So why don't you go first? What have you derived as a drink for this show?
A blue Hawaiian.
Wrong one. Wrong one.
You're on top of it today. Have you been drinking ahead of? You've been pre-gaming?
I had a beer. I went to trivia tonight, and like I must have, that beer must have had 8,000 ABVs in it. I don't know. Sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
Which I learned yesterday is different than a blue Hawaii. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember if I've had a blue Hawaiian on the show before or not. I know the only reason I have the blue Caraco is because of the show.
Yeah, I
Nose?
don't think it was this.
Okay. So, oh yeah, it was like the Mulder Scully one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I even have the right glass, which was exciting. Uh,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, I have exactly one hurricane glass because I brought it home from like one of those bars that has you order the drink and get the glass.
You get the glass for free. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I just have two cherries because I didn't have any pineapple slices to put it in.
Yeah, we're pretty loosey goosey here. I think that's fine.
This is really good.
So, yeah, let's see that. Let's see the drink again. Sorry. Ooh, get the
Little
fancy
Venus
little.
de Milo cocktail thing that I didn't. I thought it was it's for like appetizers, not for the glass. So we're like precarious here. But
Well, if you've seen some of these like viral like cocktails where they do like the Bloody Marys that have like 8,000 like things on them, that works.
mhm.
So are you doing the maraschino cherries, or are you doing like the Luxardos? Are you
I
doing the
did
fancy?
maraschino because I was a little worried that the flavor profile of the Blue Hawaiian would taste weird with Luxardo.
That's a fair point because Luxardos are very like rich. So I
Yeah,
imagine that, yeah,
and this is like, I mean, it's like a neon blue drink. It doesn't need a fancy cherry.
that's true. True. True.
Anyway, it's really good. I
Yeah.
recommend it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And we will get into the reason why that is your drink.
Oh, right, I
But
forgot.
yeah, yeah. So mine is something that I found called the Ascension. This is 1.5 ounces of vodka, coffee liqueur, orange liqueur, dashes of chocolate bitters, tonic water, 4 ounces of good quality tonic water, and an orange peel, which I forgot to peel. So yeah, I got this because they talked a lot about Mother God ascending, her ascension. This was a repeated theme through the entire time. So
That sounds really good.
the only problem is the really good tonic I had was I thought I had good tonic, and the only tonic I had was lime tonic water.
Oh no!
So I'm afraid this is going to be terrible because of tonic.
Fingers crossed.
It smells awesome, and I had the right glass. It's a Collins glass, so I had the right glass for it too. Look at us with the right glasses for a drink tonight. That would be much better if you had regular tonic.
Yeah, because it sounds like it kind of. Have you had those espresso sodas? You can get like
Yeah.
It sounds like it would taste like that.
Well, the thing about this is that this particular one I usually use for gin and tonics because I like the lime.
Right.
But the lime is really mild in that. The lime you get for the gin and tonics I make is all because I cut limes into it. So it's not bad. I think if you just had the really high quality tonic, that would make it just fizz and be really good. It's good. It's just not as good as if you had really high quality tonic water. I had no idea if the orange peel would make a difference. Maybe because you had the orange liqueur, because I had triple sec. So maybe that would make it a bit better. But yeah, that is what I pulled out. So before we start talking about the show,
Trigger warning city.
Trigger warnings. Let's get there now.
Okay, we have child abuse and neglect. We have, I don't know a way to say this that is like soft enough to be a trigger. We have rotting corpses, medical neglect, spiritual abuse, domestic abuse. I would say non-consensual sex. I guess we'll get into it. I don't think you can consent to sex when you're doing like quote,
copious amounts of psychedelics.
More mushrooms than anyone should probably take was the exact quote.
Yeah.
We have just like so much. I mean, there's so much. It's hard to like encapsulate. A lot of the people that surrounded her were really, really horrible people. And then in her journey through life, it's like a hurt people thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll get to my hot take on this
Yeah.
later. But this is a tough one. Basically, you're watching this 3 hours, you're watching someone slowly die in front of you.
Yep.
So if you haven't seen the documentary, like be aware that that's what you're signing up for. Luckily, you're not going to have to see that here. We're just going to be talking about it. But it was a really tough watch for me. It was a really tough watch.
Yeah, agreed. And there's some other things like there's some financial manipulation, obviously the high control stuff. Although the high control stuff seemed a little less A little less. Not as in your face as some of the other ones we've done, I guess is
So
maybe the way.
this is where I'm just gonna put it up at the front of the show because maybe it'll change the way we talk about it. I don't know. My hot take is that she wasn't the cult leader
Oh, I totally 100% agree that she was
at
not.
all.
I
And
think she started out being, and then we'll talk about why. I'm pretty sure we agree who the actual cult leader was there, but yeah.
I don't know if I agree with myself. So, well, yeah, but it gets weird. And some of what made the last episode so hard to watch is like they kind of turned on her. I feel like in a weird way, without it looking like that's what they were doing. I don't know. Well, we'll have to get there because it's a fucking weird one. It just saying a lot for this show for us to,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, there's some that are really like distressing and like, but this one was just strange, like just really strange. Like that, and we'll get into all of that as we keep saying here, but man, it is what I think is interesting is like they start the show as a spoiler alert here. They start the show, the very first episode, it's the cops showing up to the place and they go in and they find the dead body.
Can you help me with something, Doug? Because this, I
Yeah.
went back and looked at it like 3 times, and it was just so surreal. I feel like, was there an alien mask on her body?
That's what it looked like to me. I swear it was like every fucking like alien autopsy thing you've ever seen, didn't it? And like it was like ET wrapped in a blanket, like
It
kind of
was just
deal.
so weird because they kept saying that she was like wrapped in Christmas, like they kept describing it, but then leaving out the fact, like very obviously on the body cam footage, she's wearing like a little green man alien mask.
Yeah, and I initially I hadn't even thought of it being a mask. I just thought because her skin was very blue by the time she died, which we'll talk about why. And I just thought maybe it was just her skin was so tight and desiccated that, but the eyes were way too big. You're right. Like I didn't even consider that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to go back and look again because it was tripping me out, and I went back 2 times. I watched it, was like, "What?" Went back and went back again, but it's just really quick, and then no one
Yeah.
picks it up again.
Yeah. We don't actually see her like that again until not really like that ever again, to be honest.
Thankfully, in my
Yeah.
opinion,
Thankfully.
'cause it's a lot.
Agreed. I did need to see that. So, yeah. So that's a great intro when you jump right into that. Like sometimes when you see these docuseries and they do that whole thing where we're just going to jump into what the end is, and
Yeah,
sometimes that's good.
that hit the news before this came out because that's how I found out about it. A friend of mine who knows that I am like into cults and stuff was like, "Have you heard of this?" Because the headline was something like she's found covered in glitter and wrapped in mummified, covered in glitter and wrapped in Christmas lights.
Yeah. An interesting thing though is I don't know if you picked up on this, and this is the first thing I wrote in my notes was they go in, the cops execute a search warrant, and they ask the guy who we later find out is Jason, is who's here? And he said, oh, and then there's mother. He said she is in rest.
Yes.
She has rested. That just
Yeah.
sounds ominous as fuck.
It's like if you didn't want them to ask more questions, you shouldn't have said it like that. But did you know that they said they had a search warrant to execute to search for a child?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that okay, because that sounds like a wellness check, not a
Mm,
search warrant. That's the first thing
right.
I wrote in my notes. And then later they say something something Miguel, which is a major player who they call Michael in the cult.
Mm, mm.
And I think that he lied to get them there.
Oh, I
Because
totally
he
would
wasn't
believe
living
that.
there. His kid wasn't there. Like, because at first I was like, oh my God, did he like leave one of his kids there or something? And then you realize that he owned the house. It was in his name. Questions as to if he was supposed to own it or not, whatever. But he did, and he just didn't want them there, which fucking no shit, man. Like
Fair point. Oh man. Yeah. All right, so we get to that whole thing. That's just the beginning, and then I guess then we start really getting into the backstory a bit about where this starts. I mean, there's a lot of shit where they talk about the cult members at the beginning, like how they
you said
how they all. What was that?
Like the whole first episode is just like getting introduced to people.
Yeah, mostly. We get to introduce a bunch of people who have not their real names. They have sort of what religious names is what they described it. I didn't see them
And
as all
then one
religious.
guy who's named Uncle T.
Uncle T, and one guy named Dylan. Just Dylan.
Well, but Dylan left.
Yeah.
So I thought that's why he went by Dylan, but it was like Arkea, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Hope. Arkea,
Yeah.
Aurora, Commander Buddha, and like Father
Commander
God.
Buddha.
I know. And then Uncle T. It's like, oh,
Oh,
okay.
and then there was one guy named Uncle like El Moya or Moira or whatever.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. And I don't know what that
what
means.
was that? Like, I just didn't understand that one at all. But yeah. So where do we go from here? Because
Well, I would say 2 quotes is one of them, Hope or Aurora, I can't remember which, says, her body was warm, it never got cold. Which seems
I'm calling
unlikely.
bullshit there.
And then they were interested to see what the autopsy would uncover because they believed she had 3 hearts. Okay, Doctor Who. But then the other quote was that Father God is like, I don't think it was Jason. I think it was the other one, Father Multiverse.
But we should say there's multiple father gods.
Yes. And then the second to last Father God gets to stay, but he's Father Multiverse.
Father God of the multiverse. Yes. Like, whatever.
Anyway, I think it's him. It might be Jason. It's hard to tell because you're not seeing, it's audio. It's not video.
Yeah.
He's talking around like, you're going to have to understand all this stuff. And the cop says like, dead serious, like, he's got an interrogation to do. He says, I talked to one of your other people early, so I have an idea, or I have a good idea, and I am aware of the 5th dimension and the portal, so we don't have to go over that again. You're in custody. We're in jail. Like,
yeah. Like how he's making very plain. Hey, by the way, get out of your 5th dimension and your portal and realize you're in prison in the 3rd dimension or whatever you think.
You don't have to tell me anything about whatever was going on.
Yeah.
What's going on right now is you're in jail, bro. Like, you need to focus.
Yeah. So we should clarify that we're going to talk a bit about Mother God's origins. That wasn't her name. Her name obviously wasn't Mother God. She just adopted that later. Right. She was born Amy Carlson. Very Mother God type name.
An average name. Like, yeah. I mean,
yeah. It's implied kind of that her mom was in a pretty abusive relationship with the father.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not explicitly said, but kind of very much insinuated that was the case, right?
Yeah,
that's what I got out of it.
We couldn't have them around it, so
yeah.
And I don't know. I don't like the way they give her past history. It's a little too disjointed for me. I kind of had to take some time to put it together. But basically, her mom leaves, and then her dad remarries, and her sister says basically the stepmother took out all of her frustration about there even being an ex-wife on Amy.
Mm-hmm.
She was being pretty brutally abused. So she went from like this like unstable, volatile home environment to now split custody with someone who is physically and emotionally abusing her, locking her in closets, like real nasty stuff.
Yeah.
But then we find out that when she has kids of her own, she's kind of parenting like that.
Yeah.
Like we don't get a lot of detail, but there is like she was charged with neglect and like not feeding the kids and leaving them alone and stuff. So
yeah, and she got pregnant right away when she was 19, and then like it's just a string of like they kept emphasizing how she kept choosing bad guys.
Yeah.
And there's a line of questioning I asked you in our like chats offline about the idea of like there's always this sort of line that it's sort of victim blaming in the idea that like, well, certain women attract abusers or they gravitate towards abusers. And I don't know, something like this, the way this keeps evolving and all the guys, she seems to be like that could be a possibility. But
I would say it's less like I would say it's less like, oh, she's it's less that new age shit, right? That you attract what you put out there or whatever. And
Yeah.
more that like people who don't resolve their issues from their family of origin tend to repeat them because they feel familiar and normal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And she was young, like really young. And it
Yeah.
sounds like, her mom said she got a job at McDonald's and like by the time she was 19, she was a store manager, which that might sound like if you never worked in fast food, you might hear that and be like, okay, but that's actually a really big deal. That's like
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what it is now, but like when I was working in fast food in the early 2000s, that would have been like a $60,000 a year job at 19.
Yeah.
Um, so it seems like to me for a 19-year-old to get a job like as a fry cook and then excel that quickly, there is an element of like running from something that's happening.
Hmm.
And I think that kind of explains why like she does ecstasy once and then she's like, fuck all that. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. She with the ecstasy thing, it's interesting because I guess I forget who said it, but they said she saw that the trip she took, that was reality, and that reality was not real. Now, I've done
I was
some.
rolling. Here, I have a quote from her though, because it's very interesting to me. Oh, I took too many notes, but she was like, I was rolling, rolling, rolling in so much love, and I thought, is this reality? Is this the reality they have stolen from me? It was either stolen or taken, but it was very much like not oh my perception has changed and I realize that the world is love, but like that some they out there has taken it away.
Mhm.
And I thought that was a really interesting way to phrase it.
Yeah, yeah. The idea that something had been taken away from her that she saw, and now she saw through the veil or whatever, and like, yeah, now I see this. And yeah, it is.
Your face.
It's just like one trip does that to her. I'm like, look, I've
Somebody who
not done
used
a
to
lot.
not be doing psychedelics. Like,
Yeah, yeah, that's not a person that you should be doing that stuff if that's what you think is going to happen. But yeah, that's what happened to her. So apparently, like you said, she kind of is like, okay, well, that McDonald's shit, fuck that, I'm done.
I mean,
Uh,
I've never taken ecstasy, but there's a reason they call it ecstasy, right? Like you have to have a little bit of discernment.
yeah,
Like this that's the whole point of the drug is to make you feel that way.
yeah.
So yeah, it's but then it comes okay. I also feel like I'm gonna jump ahead.
Mhm.
Something that really bothered me. There's a couple things that people say in this that are like, it's just so unlikely that that's true. Um,
Oh, just a few. You only have a few. I have a
no,
lot of those.
but I mean like things that would seem like you wouldn't lie about. Not,
Mhm.
that obviously Robin Williams was not giving them dieting advice from beyond the grave. Like, but the guy, it is Dylan, right? That was like the second father god.
I think you're right. Yeah.
He says he shows up and she and Michael had been doing mushrooms for 36 hours and then they all took more together. And I'm like, okay, here's the thing. I don't know if this is true of ecstasy, but I know it's true of mushrooms, LSD, and ketamine. Maybe also ecstasy. But you have like this really there's a technical word for it, but like super fast tolerance chemically.
Yeah.
So if you keep like if you're doing mushrooms for 36 hours, in order to still be tripping on like the last handful of mushrooms you took, you'd have to eat like a pound of mushrooms. And so I think they lied to him, right? But he doesn't know that because
Yeah.
how do you know that? Because I was just like, I'm listening. I'm like, wait a minute, like, because you can't even take mushrooms and then the next day take acid because then the acid won't work. Like it's fascinating, but it's true. That's how it works. Like the tolerance builds so fast that you have to wait like days and sometimes weeks to be able to get to
Get to
tripping.
that point again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I believe
Yeah.
that they gave him more than he should have had, but I don't think that they had been doing mushrooms for 36 hours unless they were just like
Yeah. That guy was
of mushrooms, like kilos upon, I don't know.
yeah, yeah, the guy wasn't that was Andrew. That wasn't Dylan.
That was
That was a
Andrew,
good
sorry, yeah.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, he said all that. But you did jump ahead, but there's one thing we do have to talk about before we get back into that realm
Okay.
is that when she does the psychedelic, she quits McDonald's, she starts going online and she's looking for spiritual connection, right? And this is the early days of the internet, so like
All the websites, man, they
you
look
know,
ooh,
it's like GeoCities kind of shit going on all over the place.
fire.
Yeah. So, but she finds this thing called light seekers, which I had never heard of. I
No,
don't know if you had.
light workers.
Oh, light workers. I thought it was light seekers.
Yes,
Maybe
because
it's light workers.
a light worker is a specific type of new age person.
Oh,
Yeah, and
see, I thought it was light seekers. But
oh,
hey,
you're right. No, you're correct. Lightworkers.org was her first website.
yeah, light seekers was like where she
Yes.
meets this character.
This guy.
This guy is like I don't. You describe him because I'm gonna not be nice.
Okay, so here's the thing, right? Is like they show him, and you see that they're doing some kind of like wedding ceremony type thing on this video. They didn't ever get married, but that's the vibe of whatever they're doing. He's like a
Yep.
million years old, and and she's not. She's like 20, or I guess not. Like she must be like 22 or so because she had already had the 3 kids,
Mhm.
whom she abandoned to go run away with this Methuselah guy.
Methuselah.
And his name was Amaranth.
Amaranth.
Yeah, and so I don't know, it's so weird because I see him and he's old as dirt and she's young and in her little like no bra little spaghetti strap and I'm like, oh, he's super taking advantage of her. But then by the end of his little segment, I'm like, oh my god, like she ran this dude over.
Yeah, yeah,
He's
she
like,
really did.
he said his belief was that everybody is God, but
Mhm.
apparently she thought she was more God than everybody else.
That was like his line too, right?
Yeah, and I was like, that's such a great line. But he's just like genuinely this hippie dude,
Yep.
like is genuinely like everybody has divine in them and is worthy of love and respect and the world can be all love and I'm going to do videos with my girlfriend who believes the same thing as I do and oh no. And then she just meets another guy online and dumps his ass without a word.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, she met him, and apparently, like 17 days later, she met him online, and 17 days later, met him in person. And she was at a dinner with her family, and just
Got
fucking
up and
left.
walked away and with her 3 kids sitting there.
Her 3 kids sitting there. She up and just picked her shit up and left her kids with her with her mom and her family, while she just decided I'm hauling ass and meeting
Yeah,
Emirates.
and her sister was like, well, I didn't think she was actually leaving, like
Leaving.
but then she didn't come back.
Yeah, that was just like I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and then just they're like, where the hell? So they decide to come home, and then she's like, well, she'll be at home or something, and then they're like, no, all her shit's gone. I'd be like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, well, I'm just like, God, I felt so much like heartbreak for those kids, because they're adults in the documentary, and whew, man, like like they come across kind of well adjusted,
Yeah, considering, yeah,
but it's like, what? Like you had to just, I don't know. Her son said something that really stuck with me, and of course I can't remember it, but stuck with me that much. There's just a lot in this documentary, but it was just like yeah, I can't find it, but it was just like he just had like nothing for her.
yeah. He's like, well,
Like, sure,
yeah,
technically she was my mom. I never fucking knew her. She left, and
yeah,
whatever, man.
yeah. What a mom of the year. That's why she's mother god, I guess. She's mom of the year.
That's something
Uh,
that plays into my like sadness. Like I think that she's a lot more tragic than most of our cult leaders. Like,
Yes.
she fucked up being a mother so bad, but then based her entire life around being mother to everyone. And
Mhm.
there's like some like, God, I just wish she had gotten therapy instead, you know? Like, could have worked that out.
Yeah, I think she thought her therapy was the copious amounts of drugs and alcohol. Uh,
There's a lot
well,
of people in the psychedelic community who think that if everyone just did psychedelics, everything would be wonderful because apparently those people have always had a wonderful time. I don't know, they've never had a bad trip. But I always think about stories like this where it's like, where if you've met somebody who does like a lot of acid or a lot of mushrooms, or you hear a story like this and you're like, no, like that person definitely has access to psychedelics and they're an asshole. So obviously that's not the solution.
no, no.
There's more to it than that, guys.
Yeah. Well, I will say what Amaranth does for Amy slash Mother God. And I'm just going to refer to her as Amy. I'm not going to do the Mother God the whole thing because that's
Yeah,
going to drive me nuts.
I hated it when
Um,
her mom worse was.
yeah, yeah. But what I find really funny about them is they believe that clouds are starships. That just it was kind of adorable in its own way.
She's so infantile.
Yeah, yeah,
That
very.
was another thing that was uncomfortable about the whole thing is I like it's I don't know if you imagine things the way that I imagine things as a kid, but those round ones with the flat bottoms, they
Mhm.
do look like flying saucers. And so when you're a kid, you're like, oh shit, maybe it's really a flying saucer, but she believed it. And also there was Robin Williams. Um,
Oh yeah, that's the thing. We'll get to that because we need to talk about the Galactic A Team, but we'll get to that, which is got a lot of things to it because A Team implies like
like
a
Mr.
very bad '80s show with Mr. T and stuff.
The thing is that I keep saying this is so dark, and it really is. But it's like part of why it's so dark, in my opinion, is because all of it is so childish.
Mhm.
And like I said, I just wish she got therapy because like there's some arrested development going on with her. So
Yeah, yeah,
maybe
for
she looks
sure.
for people to take things over for her.
Yeah,
Because after Amaranth was this guy Michael, who ran everything, all the money, owned all the property, like everything was in his name. And here's the thing, Zach, things can be silly dark, and that's usually my favorite thing. But when it's real, it's fucking upsetting. Like, so I agree, but oh my god, it's upsetting. So yeah, like Michael takes care of everything, and then she gets this guy John, who is like a veteran, and
is he? Yeah.
so I don't think that what he says about his service is true, but I think he actually did serve. That's a whole thing. That's another thing that pinged me really weird. But like anyway, he's a Marine veteran, so like you think he's like tough. He's not though. A big surprise, we need another father god because he's not tough. And so it's like this guy Jason is like buff and loud and like very toxic masculinity, and he comes in and he's gonna like whip everybody into shape. It's just like she's looking for someone to take care of her,
Mhm.
and all of the people taking care of her do treat her like a spoiled child. She gets whatever toys she wants. She fucking decorates her room in glitter and Christmas lights, and it's just very like, just give me the heebie-jeebies. Like we know all this bad stuff happened to her as a kid.
Yeah,
We know that she never dealt with it because she just went from being a kid to being in all these abusive relationships and having kids of her own to then running into this lifestyle where it's just like she's a spoiled little girl, which probably felt super healing because she didn't realize until it was way too late that the infantilizing of her was going to cost her.
yeah, dearly.
Yeah, and it's just so weird. But yeah, like the spaceship thing, that was like the first big clue that this was about like some weird like Arrested Development that she had not really worked.
Yeah, she had. Well, the other thing is with the spaceship thing that coincides is because they're like both like doing just sort of super hippie, trippy kind of lifestyles. They decide, like you said, Emmerich said that he pictured everybody as God, and they decide to do an online thing, which I thought was interesting for Emmerich because I'm sure he didn't come up with that concept. I'm sure that was Amy.
Well, I mean, they met
And
online. He might have been one of those people, like an early adopter.
yeah, maybe true. But um, the but they do this thing where they're going to do mother god and father god, like as a combined on an online presence, and they do some videos, very cheap videos,
So
just bad. Um, but that's kind of like, but if you think about it, that's where the genesis of all this really comes into play, is where to her to really becoming this mother god character was the genesis, was with this Amaranth guy, was like this old hippie guy.
and it seems weird. I'll say this: I believe him about his own beliefs, but it does seem like that should have been a red flag, man.
Yeah,
Her belief
yeah.
is that everybody is God or everybody has God in them, and then she's like, "But we're Mother God and Father God." Like that's a hierarchy, man.
Hmm. Yeah. He was kind of taken for, like you said, she ran him over. And I'm sure this mother god, father god thing was her idea. And he's just like, yeah, why not?
Oh,
Whatever.
yeah,
Fuck
you're
it.
like a young, cute girl that,
Yeah.
yeah,
Doing all the things to him that he likes.
him. But like, you get in the interview, you get this sense that he was maybe, I don't want to say naive because there is a type of man. I feel like my late uncle was one of these men who is just really dumb about relationships. My uncle was like one of the smartest people I've ever met. He was like one of the very early computer people, like as a living, and so smart. But he was married 5 fucking times, like at no point did it occur to him that maybe
Maybe he's bad
marriage
at that.
is him or like he's done it enough times or whatever. So I feel like I got that vibe from Emmerich that he was just like he's always gonna like he sees somebody or he's talking to them and he gets some butterflies in his stomach and he's like, this time it's gonna be different, you know?
Yeah. Good luck. Uh, well, like you said, we had all kinds of different things go on there. Just she leaves Amaranth, and um, he even said that she was looking for followers. Even Amaranth was smart
Oh
enough to
yeah.
see that.
He said, yeah, because as soon as she left, that's what she got. Is something like that, is what he said, which was weird. Oh, this is the other thing I forgot to bring up. Going back up a little bit to the beginning where they're showing just like B-roll of people who are in the cult doing things. They're meditating with these resin pyramids.
Oh yeah.
You guys at home, after the show, please go Google Orgone. Orgone, I believe is how it's spelled. You want some new age crazy shit. This is like they take resin and they throw a bunch of shit in it, and then they believe that by doing that it gives it like extra super magic powers.
Right.
And then
Super fancy powers.
somehow from I have like this hunk of resin that has like rocks and beads in it, we get to lizard people. It's so fucking weird, but it's there. I saw Orgone in the very beginning, and then throughout, like it keeps popping up these like layered resin things. It's anyway. Just go look it up. We don't have time to cover it here, but believe me, it is worth
It's worth a look. It's worth
Yeah.
a look.
So she gets her followers with Michael. And I
Yeah.
think at that point they'd changed the name again. It wasn't Lightworkers anymore. What was it? It was some really mouthful, horrible name, like
It
First
was really,
Contact browncrew.com.
yes, what a, and what's funny is Andrew, the guy we mentioned earlier, who's kind of became the first father god,
The
was
second,
like the second. Was he? No, he was the
yeah, because
first one.
Amaranth was the first.
Amaranth was the first. Correct. Sorry. You're right. We just talked about him. That was brilliant. Of it. Like I
There's
said,
a lot of them. It's
what's going
okay.
on? What's going
It's like
on with the
Michael
brain?
also might have been one, but we don't know.
No, Marco was an archangel.
Right, but there was like a conversation in there where it's like,
Maybe.
but it didn't last very long because it turns out they needed a marketing guy.
Yeah, which Andrew was. Andrew
That's so
was,
such a strange
and,
coincidence that they really needed a marketing guy, and then she started
yeah,
dreaming about him.
magically she pulls him in, and they had this online presence, and somehow it was funny. Is like back then, websites were shit, but nobody knew they were shit.
Right.
So like everybody just thought, oh, okay. So, and as we've seen many times in many cults, is like if you get an online presence and it just resonates with the right people, they will come. And he
Here's
came,
the right.
and
Can I just I'm gonna give you my whole entry on Andrew's bio.
yeah, do
This
that,
is
please.
it's pretty wild. And this is actually like uh condensed. It's not the whole thing. So Andrew starts out, he's got a painkiller addiction. They don't really tell us if it's because he was injured and then got there or like if it started some other way.
Yeah.
Benefit of the doubt because fuck Purdue probably got injured. Like it's whatever.
Mm.
Anyway, painkiller addiction, which led him to 9/11 conspiracy theories, which led him to aliens, which led him to ancient Egypt, which led him to et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He lists like fucking a lot of them.
Yeah.
And then here's Amy with her conspiracy theory videos, because again, like she's fucking using Orgon, so she's in that shit. Like I'm sure they didn't cover a lot of this, but like Theosophy has a lot of racist, weird conspiracy theory roots, and the Galactic Empire thing that she has is very Theosophy. Like it is like they're basically the Ascended Masters, but she gave them a different name. And then like all of these conspiracy theories that he's into have those kind of dark underbellies to them.
Hmm.
And he says that he started having dreams about her every night. And oh, what a coincidence. She tells him she's been having dreams about him. And here's what I think. He didn't say this, and maybe he doesn't even remember this, but I would bet you everything in my bank account that he told her that. Or he said something that allowed her to know that.
Yeah, when he didn't remember, yeah.
Right. Because come on, man. There's no way. um Yeah, and that's where we get to like she's like, come, and then she's like, yeah, Mike and Amy were doing mushrooms for 36 hours. No, they weren't. Anyway, maybe they were, but if they were not high on mushrooms when he got there. um, so they gave him a shitload, and he basically like was not having a conscious trip. He was not like seeing the walls melt. He was out. And when it
Yeah.
came to, she's like, well, when you're ready to fuck, I mean, she didn't say it like that, but whatever.
When you're ready to make love,
Big
it's like,
love. And he's like, I wasn't really attracted to her,
yeah.
but it seemed like maybe I should. Oh, maybe it's a challenge that I have to face. Because that's
Oh,
my
yeah, that's right.
spiritual growth.
Maybe this is part of the challenge of me doing this. Yeah.
So he bangs her, and then like one thing leads to another, and he's in love with her, and he's Father God. And what is super sad about him, he caught on like right away.
Yeah.
Like she was his rock bottom.
Yeah,
Like I'm
she
serious.
was.
Like you get the sense because like he's like when he's talking about having been into all these conspiracy theories and he's talking about like how he got there, it's pretty clear that he's seeing that as the path to destruction, not well, yeah, I still think Bush did 9/11, like so yeah, and he says my favorite thing is he says she was sexually charged, passionate, and if I'm being honest, lazy.
That was the best.
Comes back to that she just wanted people to take care of her, and he said basically at the time that this was going on enjoyed taking care of her.
Yeah.
And another comment that he had to work to keep weed on the table. So yeah, she was doing a lot of drugs, but he was telling her like you have to stop.
Especially, I think he was more specific about the alcohol more than the weed. But
No, but I mean like you have to stop the mother god thing.
oh, yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
because
Yeah.
he said she was drinking herself into oblivion every night while saying that she was like so healed, and he's like, "This is bad. You can't do this." But also, you're not Mother God. That's not a thing. I'm not Father God. Like this has to stop. But then Michael, um, who knows what he believed and when he believed it, but he was invested in keeping it going. So he just kind of convinced her that Andrew is the bad guy, even though he's the one that got them, a name that works and he's the one that came up with Love Is One. He got him Name It Works. He got them a web presence, social media, made it happen. Basically, Mike was like, he's the problem, and she basically told him like, you can shut the fuck up or leave. And so he left because they weren't giving him enough mushrooms. I guess I don't know, or maybe they just kept giving them to him, and he had such a high tolerance that it wasn't working anymore.
Maybe. Because you did say they have a tolerance thing. So, yeah, I'm not slandering GeoCities here, Zach. I just was saying most websites back then were shitty looking. We just didn't realize it.
It wasn't Angel Fire. Oh, well, here's the other thing. Did you notice that one of the videos they showed of her was she was dressed as Belle from Beauty and the Beast?
That was fucking amazing.
Like a Halloween costume, not like not like, oh, that dress is reminiscent of, like, she's just wearing like a child's. I mean, it was her size, but yeah. So weird. But yeah, so did you catch what the fuck they were talking about doing brain surgery on people?
She was calling initially Amy was doing healing sessions online, and she was calling them brain surgeries, which I just found fucking ridiculous. Like, that's not surgery involves some physical tools, but I know what she was trying to do. She's making it sound way more high class than what it was.
Well, like the faith surgery or whatever it is, like Tim Jones did it. And like Andy Kaufman had it done to him when he had cancer. Like, they like act like they're doing like basically Reiki surgery, and they like pulling stuff out, but it's like chicken livers and shit. Anyway.
Yeah. So
this cult has everything though. Like, it's got some version of every weird cult thing.
Yeah, it's like an amalgam of all of them. It's like a really interesting thing. What we're also dealing with here though is regarding all the quote unquote healings that Amy is doing, is speaking to your point that she just wanted to be taken care of. She would proclaim that she's super exhausted because she's taking on all this energy of people, of all of humanity. So she brings in this person, Faith, this lady who goes by Faith. I don't know what her real fucking name is.
I can't remember because they kind of bounced right over it. But yeah.
And I'm pretty sure she's Australian. Like, that was what her accent was, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, whatever. She was not American by birth. Anyway, so Faith sees that poor Amy is so exhausted that she just can't handle doing all the healings herself. She's doing this 24/7. Now she isn't. She's doing a few, and she wanted to go and smoke more weed and do more acid and
have hysteric meetings, which to an outsider would appear like she was having a nap, but actually doing really hard.
I think that I'm going to do that at home. I'm just going to tell people I'm in an etheric meeting, and I'm just going to go take a nap.
Yeah, I had a half an hour etheric meeting around 3 o'clock today.
Yeah. Except the problem with that is I can't take naps. Like, naps are just, unless I'm sick, I just can't nap. I'm weird. I wish I could, but I can't.
I'll give you some tips after the show.
So anyway, Faith decides she's going to do all the healings now. I guess that was decided. It seemed like she was taking over all of them, right? I wasn't
it's kind of weird. Like, it went from Amy, mom is tired because she's doing all these healings, and so I would train Faith how to do the healings. Then all of a sudden it was like, well, mom is tired because she's taking on like all of the bad things in the universe. Mm-hmm. It just changed, right?
Yeah.
Which that was also like, that's what happens, but
yeah, but that was kind of a recurrent theme, was they were keep talking about how she was taking on so much for humanity. Humanity was turning their back on her and all that fucking nonsense. Like, just making it sound like just martyring her because of it.
Maybe it's like anybody besides like them and their specific followers like believed that she was anybody or anything.
Yeah. But you were talking about etheric meetings, so let's talk a bit about the Galactic A-Team. Now that we're here, let's talk about the Galactic A-Team, because holy shit, we really need to discuss that, because I stopped and froze, and they had a collage of all the people who were on the Galactic A-Team.
Gene Wilder.
That's one of them. I have a whole host of them that I wrote down.
Okay, you know, because I only wrote a couple down.
I wrote a bunch.
Let's do it.
Gene Wilder is one of them. Robin Williams obviously was the top tier one, apparently, right?
The main guy.
That was the main guy. We have Steve Irwin. John Denver,
Oh, I
Prince.
see John Denver because they're in Colorado.
I didn't even connect that one. That's great. The other one that just threw me was Bill Hicks. Why the fuck is Bill Hicks in the Galactic 18? Like,
he's got some great stuff about drugs. Like he's
yes, maybe that's why.
It's got to be it.
Maybe. John Lennon, of course.
John Lennon was what, Ashtar, and he drove the spaceship.
Yes, that was he's going to drive the spaceship to help her to her ascension. So yes, Carrie Fisher, David Bowie, Leonard Nimoy, Patrick Swayze, which you and I just had a discussion about him recently. Donald Trump.
That one was my favorite because they're like, well,
he's still alive. What the fuck is he in there for?
And they gave some explanation. It's like that, but that's not an explanation.
It isn't.
They were like, it seems like he's alive, but he's not, or something. Like he's alive.
Something completely nuts.
He's alive in the 3D world, but I don't know.
Well, they pulled also.
Never hang out with Donald Trump. Give me a fucking break.
The one that actually made me laugh the most was the Son of Sam killer.
I didn't. David Berkowitz is on there.
Yes.
What the fuck?
So I was like, wait, and I was like, that can't be. And then I look at the picture and I'm like, wait, I know who that is. And I like Googled. I'm like, holy fuck! And I looked at Jill and I was like, that's a Son of Sam killer. And she's like, what? I'm like, yeah.
I will say the picture that they had of Gene Wilder is my favorite picture of Gene Wilder.
It's a great picture.
Made me feel offended that it was on there.
The one that actually offended me was George Carlin. That offended me because that motherfucker would not be on board with that.
I mean, neither would Bill Hicks.
Neither would Bill. Would be like, get the fuck out of here. They had. So I have so many. Just let me finish here and then we'll go.
Sorry.
Chris Farley, Tom Petty, Michael Jackson, Bob Marley, Walt Disney, Kenny Rogers, Regis Philbin, Richard Pryor. What?
Did you say Kenny Rogers?
Yeah.
Isn't he also still alive?
No, he's dead. He died a couple of years ago. Richard Pryor, Jonathan Winters was a really good one. Frank Zappa. And like you said, John Lennon was Ashtar, the pilot of the mothership.
Zappa would be totally into this, though.
Zappa would find it fascinating. That's what I think he would be like, what the fuck is this? I need to see what the hell this is.
And do mushrooms fucking every chance he got, though.
Yeah. So that just was like, and that's her Galactic 18. These are when they refer to the Galactics, this is the team that is talking to them.
Dictate everything they do, supposedly. And then they would sell, like, because they had to make money. They realized that they needed to make money, right? And so they started selling self-care boxes. And in the self-care boxes, you got a letter from Robin Williams.
Yeah, who wrote that? Not Robin Williams.
Fucking Hope.
Oh, I bet.
Because she's one of the people in the running, in my opinion, for who the actual leader of the cult was.
Yeah.
Because she was trained to be an oracle, and so she talked to Robin Williams all the time. And Robin Williams, because Amy says Robin Williams is like the divine messenger or whatever, like he's got more info, like she's let him have more info, something, whatever. And like she's like, well, I talked to Robin Williams and he told us what medication to give mom. And I talked to Robin Williams and he said that she's lying when she says she wants to go to the doctor. Like, just yeah. She wrote them.
Well, that's just for episode 1, by the way. We're just through episode 1. There's 3 episodes, and that was just episode 1. We're an hour in.
Let's just like run through a couple of important things.
Yes, please.
So she called alcohol and weed tools of true joy, which is something, if you ever find yourself saying that, you need to get to AA right away.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was the other thing that was like, to an outsider, it might look like she was using a lot of alcohol, except if you're using it correctly, actually it's medicine.
Oh yeah. Alcohol is medicine was one of my favorite fucking lines. No, it isn't. It might anesthetize you. It is not a medicine.
Yeah, I mean, look, like we're here, we're drinking, we got bar in the name. Calm the fuck down. Like,
Exactly.
there
Take
are a
it
lot
down a notch.
there are a lot of things that like I'll listen to your argument about whether it's like medicine that we've left behind because of like the medicalization of everything. Alcohol ain't one of them, bud. Anyway,
Unless you're trying to heal a wound, like maybe it
well,
has
well, she was trying to heal some wounds, but yeah,
not physical wounds, unfortunately. But
not
yeah.
the kind that alcohol actually works with. And so then there's this other thing of like, if you hate yourself, you see Amy and not Mother God, because she is a mirror of how you feel about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if I don't believe that she is God, it's actually because I hate myself. It's not because she's a lady named Amy Carlson, who's an alcoholic. Then we have her third Father God, John, who's the one I say, I don't think he is being honest about his service because he says that he had what do you say? 6 years active duty, 2 years inactive. That is technically a contract that exists in the military, but it's like so fucking rare. And we're talking about a time period where the Marine Corps didn't take anybody who wasn't like their perfect ideal candidate because they were overwhelmed with people who wanted to join.
Mm-hmm.
And so nobody was getting special treatment. Nobody was getting the weird contract. It's for active duty, 4 years active, 4 years inactive. Reservists are 6 years reserve and 2 years inactive. That was the contract I had. And I was on active duty for longer than that because it was a fucking war, but whatever. So weird shit. I'm going to say that. Weird shit there, but he believes that there is another Father God out there. This one cracks me up because it's like almost like he was just like, this is too much for me.
Yeah, maybe there's another Father God. I don't know that I'm the only one. Maybe
There's like another guy who could rub your feet or someone. Oh, and then they believe that QAnon were people who had accepted Mother God but didn't know it yet.
Mm-hmm. And they were big Trumpers, as evidenced by him being one of the Galactics, despite being still alive.
And then the other thing was that I wrote this down, and I didn't write the whole quote down, so I don't know what it's in reference to. But my note is: "Learn to go through the back door." Ha 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 ha.
That was one of them where they were talking about a person who understood how to navigate the fifth dimension because they could navigate the back door.
Okay, now I remember. Thank you.
And I don't remember who they were talking about, but that I remember. And that my 12-year-old brain, just like yours, we're both fucking mentally 12 when it comes to shit like that. So,
well, like I bet he did.
no, yeah, I bet he did.
And so then we end episode 1 being vaguely introduced to the next Father God, who's this guy Jason, which is weird because the Lady Mary says Amy would still be with us if not for the final Father God, and I think that's a load of fucking horseshit. Like I was ready to believe that going in because he's a huge piece of shit,
right?
But like he was just kind of there. He wasn't doing anything to her. He's convinced he killed her, which is weird.
Yeah, it was. Although I have to say, the introduction to Jason is just like
he's such a shit.
Like it's just a fucking douche. He shows up, and the first image you see of him is in like a towel after a shower, and he's got a fucking ankle bracelet on his ankle. Hold on, I have to sneeze.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Not just like, by the way, like not just in general. He's on hotel arrest because of the dead body of Amy, not like not for any of the other things that are on his rap sheet, which is wrong.
Yeah. So, but like then he gets dressed, and he's just dressed in jeans, no shirt. He sits down to be interviewed, and I'm like, and he's got the hair with the ponytail, everything slicked back. He's got this just fucking smarmy look on his face, and I was like, ugh, you're that guy.
Here's the thing that I did find really like, I fucking hate his guts. So don't get me wrong.
Me too.
Everything that we learn about this guy is just like, oh my god. But one of the things that he said, and it's just like this evidence of like, God, man, like you guys, like take better care of your fucking kids because you're creating some monsters out there. He fixed something like really simple.
It was a lamp. It was a lamp.
There you go. Yeah, he fixed the lamp, and she said, "You're brilliant." And now I don't know. I wasn't there, but I feel like that's one of the, like people say that like as a like, oh, you're amazing, thank you. I feel like that's what we're talking about. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But she said that to him, and he said, I had never heard that phrase in my life pertaining to me. And that's what hooked him. And then he went fucking nuts because he's not a healthy person.
No, and his response to that was, I am brilliant. Why has no one else told me that? These motherfuckers, this is my house. Yeah. That got him on this fucking ego thing that's just like,
I feel like, if anybody had ever just been fucking nice to this guy when he was a kid, that wouldn't have had such a fucking insane effect on him where he felt like, now I need to take everything over. Because
and you and I had a big chuck over his last job.
Right. So he enters the picture in 2008. He comes into this cult in 2008, and he says, my last job in the real world was running a Blockbuster in Las Vegas. Oh, no.
My guy. Do you realize how long it's been since Blockbuster was open? I'm assuming you do.
Well, yeah, because like the last Blockbuster, which I think did finally close, which was a retail establishment selling Blockbuster merch. It wasn't like you couldn't really miss it. That wasn't in Las Vegas. Yeah. So yeah. So he's got a rap sheet including a lot of petty crime, property crimes, child neglect. Well, here's the thing, we don't know because they say that the rap sheet says child abuse, but it was more like child neglect. And it's like, well, I guess that depends on like if you believe what he has to say about it, right? Because that's probably where they got that information. And then she says that he's her twin flame.
Fucking A. Go off on a twin flame because I know you want to. Again, because that was also a recurrent thing.
It has it all. Every fucking toxic new age thing you can imagine. It's here. Get Stefan from SNL. Like,
yeah.
My entire response to that was of fucking course. Like
I just did a giant eye roll. I'm like, okay.
Anyway, so yeah, like he was a dick. He like these are all a bunch of hippies who want to sit around feeling chill, smoking pot, and he's blasting like heavy metal and like screaming and like literally banging his chest. And Amy drinks herself to sleep and is completely passed out. So he goes and like throws his fucking weight around, swings his dick, tells everybody what to do. Everybody fucking hates his guts.
Yep.
Somebody says he embodied all of the lower masculine energy you've seen on this planet in one vessel. And then I feel like that was accurate.
That's a pretty fucking astute way to say it, is it not?
Yeah. So, and then he would get pissed off at her, leave, do a bunch of meth, and then she would kick him out into the basement. And at least, here's the thing, they didn't say this, but they kept showing it. I think at some point she stopped letting him stay in the basement and started making him stay in a tent outside. Did you notice? Because there's like a whole bunch of video of him like living in a tent.
Yeah.
So anyways, a meth head, so that's fun, right? That's always something you want in your environment. That's when
they're super stable.
When I hear love and light, I think methamphetamine.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was like the premise of the entire Breaking Bad show, right? It was like love and light.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like warm,
family friendly. Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah.
The white Bill Cosby. I'm sorry. I want to take that back. Bryan Cranston is not. I'm not making that accusation.
No, Cranston's the treasure. That guy is fucking brilliant. But
Huxtable is what I meant.
And when you tell him he's brilliant, he doesn't think that he owns everything after the fact. So there's that.
Well, as far as we know.
Well, maybe.
So they move and they're like, she's like, Jason, you can't come.
Yeah, they move her to Oregon, and they're like, you need to stay here. That's actually a good move on her part. Get the
Here's
fuck
the thing,
away
though,
from that guy.
you're gonna have to earn your way back, and then he's there in 3 weeks anyway. It's like, Amy.
I would like to say call bullshit on that 3 weeks thing, not the 3 weeks part, because Jason's said he came back in 27 days. Was it 27 days? Was the time they said, I think, and three and a half, whatever. It's irrelevant. It's close enough. And he said he drove 500 miles with 11 cents in his pocket. How the fuck are you driving that with? How are you getting gas? I don't care. I don't care if and there was
Also,
no
what's
electric
funny,
cars.
Doug, is that Robin Williams was behind the car.
Oh, shoving him the whole way. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Problem solved. Maybe Donald Trump was pushing him. Who knows? I just remember seeing that, and I was just like, "You got to be fucked. You can't."
I didn't even catch that because I was so stuck on like, you're gonna have to earn your way back, and then it was fucking a couple weeks. It's like, Amy, when are you gonna learn, Amy? Here's I see. I wrote 24 days later. Anyway,
24. You're right. It was 24. I see that in my notes as well. So I was wrong there. I
so
apologize.
here's the thing about like where like the house burns down, right? And my favorite part is that one of the women, I think it was Faith or Hope, I didn't write down which one, says that they grabbed the laptop, mom's ice, and vodka.
Yeah, and the thing was, is they had moved to Oregon in the middle of this giant drought. Like, did you see that part? And so they were like, because they were weed smokers and cigarette smokers. They just smoked the entire time, on top of all the other things they did. So if they weren't smoking weed, they were smoking cigarettes, and they would just toss them. And somebody at like where they were standing was like, "Are you smoking there?" And they're like, "Oh, I just put it out." And so like they were just very haphazard about the fact. Well, Amy told the one person, Aaron, to go burn some sage, and she did, but started a giant brush fire which burned down her house.
Yeah,
Like just a bunch of
they
brainiacs.
called her a bitch.
Yeah, bitch, I know. I knew it through the fifth dimension or whatever.
I have to admit to you that I'm the one who started the fire. She's like, bitch, I know. It's like, you fucking told her to do it. Anyway.
It's like what you imagine a bunch of like, forgive me, potheads would do is just forget that they're in a drought and just set fire to something and it just burn everything down. Like,
I've lived in California almost my entire life. Like I lived on the East Coast for about 6 years, and the rest of the time has been California. And yeah, I just can't imagine. Like I feel like I could be blackout drunk and I would know not to throw a cigarette butt out because I'm in California. Like, so that one was just like I was just like on edge. I just felt that rage that those townspeople were bringing to the situation. What is wrong with you?
Also, why is she burning sage outside?
The thing is that they burn sage all the time, and it was cracking me up because, like, I feel like there's this element of this cult where they kind of know that something is new age, but not necessarily what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, how to utilize it, maybe.
It's like sage, and I'm not going to get into like the indigenous uses for sage and like the smudging and all of that because I'm a fucking white lady. Like you're gonna have to ask somebody who knows. I don't know. But in New Age circles, sage is considered like it's like a cleaning agent for spiritual energy or fucking whatever. And like theoretically, you would like open all the windows and burn sage in the house, and it pushes the negative energy out. So how do you burn? Like, what does burning sage outside do?
Sounded like a good idea after fucking 80 pounds of mushrooms. I don't know.
Yeah, like you're gonna fucking cleanse the state of Oregon of negative energy.
Yeah, good luck.
What? There's just way too many Nazis in Oregon for that to work.
Yeah, people think Oregon's just this like Portland and it's really lovely and progressive, and it's Portland and then the rest is a lot of Nazis. So you're correct there.
Sorry. So, and then we get introduced to this poor, like, I just feel for these people who come in these really shit situations. So, like, Andrew comes in off the back of a serious drug addiction.
Mm.
This woman, Sarah, comes in off the back of a chronic mystery illness. She'd been in a coma, $500,000 in medical bills. And she said that, quote, that puts you in a black hole you just can't see the light out of. So she's
That,
in there
she's
online
not wrong.
being, that's what these grifters do is they get people who are in these situations. That's why the wellness industry, the woo-woo part has like taken over. All the pseudoscience and all that has taken over on the internet is because like medical care in the US fucking sucks, right? It's
Yeah, well,
so grift.
well, and there's also the idea of like, this was something I wanted to talk about, and you can definitely talk through this with me because I'm not an expert on it. I just hear it from my wife. Is the whole new age to alt-right pipeline,
Mm-hmm.
and just the idea of like you get to this sort of new agey, open your mind, express your things, and then somehow you get through this path where it becomes very narrow.
Right.
And
So this one's weird though. I'm gonna say it because like we talked about this a little bit, I think in the Twin Flame one, right? Where it's like, well, it's just a very white arena, right? Like there's not
very,
a lot of people who have significant melanin that are hanging out in these circles. So that's number one.
yeah,
But like a lot of times I feel like it is this thing of like because you're talking so much about like toxic positivity and vibes and everything, and then you start blaming like you attract what you put out. So like it can't be racism that affected you. It's that you are a negative person, and then like slowly but surely this person's convinced themselves like, well, it turns out that like all black people are really negative. But I feel like there's like this element where it goes a little bit weirder with them because they start out with this conspiracy theory stuff. And like most, so I have like this is gonna be weird, but like I love conspiracy theories. But I think there's like this spectrum of like, this conspiracy theory is 100% harmless. Nobody's going to get hurt. You can have as much fun with it as you want. So like this conspiracy theory is inherently harmful, inherently racist, inherently bad. And like in between is a lot of area where you could kind of play a little bit as long as you're careful about where you associate.
sure.
And I feel like a lot of new age stuff is the same way. And so when you intersect that area in the middle is like intersecting with so many other areas in the middle of the other one that you're just sort of you're going to be anti-Semitic at the least.
Yeah, and then I think where I see the new age stuff really kind of I think it kind of starts in the realm of going from new agey and progressive to more conservative is how they have a giant disdain for medicine,
Mhm.
science, hospitals, doctors. Like they talk a lot about in this show about how doctors are quacks and just you can't trust them and it's all,
They
but
do. They say that colloidal silver was blacklisted or banned because
man,
that was funny because it's not. You can buy it anywhere, but whatever. Colloidal silver was banned by big pharma because healed people don't make them money.
yeah, and you hear a bit about that in a lot of circles, and how like the idea that like there's certain cancer treatments that we've seen very promising results of where they just never gets pursued, and that's where you get into that sort of whole, well, if you cure the cancer, well, then why would they wouldn't make most money, and there's some sort of logic pattern that you can follow for that, right?
Yeah, but it's yeah.
I'm
Because you
not
know the
saying
thing
I'm
about
not saying it's
people,
true.
the thing about research scientists is that they don't make a lot of money.
No, they do
Not in
not.
it for the money, you guys. Like, you understand that you do a scientific study and you pay money to have it put out to the world. Like, they don't pay you. It's yeah, no. There's nothing in the world that a research scientist wants more than to find the cure of cancer and be like king of the fucking world. Like, come on. Anyway, uh, I have
anyway,
a lot of beef with the American medical system. I have a lot of beef about how chronic illnesses are handled and how women and
women
minorities are
specifically.
treated. Like there's so much wrong without having to make shit up, guys.
Yeah, we got enough problems without making it seem like science, which is doing its best. I think, generally speaking, if you talk to scientists, they're really just trying to solve problems. They don't get notoriety, they don't get rich. That's not how it works. And it's interesting because, like, you see, like, a lot of scientists are like, well, they're just have an agenda. No, they don't. You know what they actually get famous for? If they can prove something that has always been thought to be true to be wrong.
Yeah, well, and here's what I'm going to say. There's this comedian I like called Shane Moss, and he does a science podcast. Like
Hmm.
he interviews scientists, not like it's not his scientific opinions. It's he goes and like this person is an expert in whatever, and we're going to talk about it, right? And he made this point that like your average scientist, if you go and you look at their Twitter feed, they have like 100 followers, and they're all other scientists.
Yeah.
And then you go look at somebody like this, and, they got millions of followers, and so like they're not out there giving the interviews, they're not out there explaining things, they're not out because that's not what they're there for.
Right.
You don't want them to be there for that, but unfortunately that also means that when somebody is putting out quacky shit like this, the guy who actually knows what's going on doesn't have a platform to say, no, that's not what's happening. I paraphrased the fuck out of that. That was not a direct quote by any stretch of the
No, no,
imagination.
it's not. Well, something that we get into now, like I said, the alt-right pipeline it's messy, but there's a lot of avenues into that, and
Well,
New Age is definitely one of them. But as we're getting into now that Jason and Amy are kind of really getting to, they're basically just full in on just getting hammered and doing all this stuff. But this is where, as the other members say, Amy starts to get mean, which is interesting because they never said that about her before, right?
yeah, and I think like the sense I get is that she's a mean drunk. So her
Yeah, that's no.
tolerance has gone up as she because back when it was Andrew who was Father God, he said she would drink herself into oblivion every night. But as your tolerance goes up, it takes you longer to fall asleep, but you're drunk. And then also Jason seems like he's just like he's not a guy who you're gonna like be having a great time in the presence of.
No,
I'm sure
no.
that there were times, like there occasionally it happens, but and there was
Yeah,
actually it did feel like there was a lot of pressure because here's the thing is I think that like she's somebody who did believe this to an extent.
yeah.
We have these examples of times where she was deep in doubt. Uh, and I understand why the members of the cult said she's just freaking out because it's a lot or whatever, but she is really God. But why the fuck her mother was just like, right, that's nice, honey. And she calls her mom and she's like, I fucked up. I'm in over my head. And her mom's just like, oh, well.
Yeah. Sorry to hear that.
It's like, fuck, you go pick your kid up, man. I don't care how old they are.
Yeah. If that happened to me, and I have some adult kids, and if that happened to me, I would be immediately trying to get to them. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
different. Yeah, well, so as I was getting to this point, like you said, and goddamn, that mother fucked up. But you're correct. I'd forgotten about that. I hadn't written that down, but whoa. But now that you said she's a mean drunk, but she's doing a lot of things that are kind of typical of cult stuff now, because now we're getting into we're going to control your food and we're going to control your sleep.
Here's the thing about that that's really fucking weird though, is again, this is where I started to feel like something's off in how this is being presented. And I'm not saying like it was intentionally being presented that way. I think it's like we have a template and she seemed to fit it.
Mm-hmm.
But she's being mean and shitty and she's saying these things, but she's not the person who decides what she eats. She's not the person who decides
True.
what. Yeah, and so this is where it got weird for me is because like you kind of feel like in a different context, what the Galactic A team was saying would be what Amy wanted to have happen. But it wasn't Amy that was receiving and projecting those messages. It was Faith and Hope.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Which ironic names for what they were doing, but yes.
but they would keep these like fucking insanely detailed journals of every single thing that Amy ate, everything she did, everything they did for her. And they were saying that they were being told by the Galactic team what to feed her. Because there was this time period where she was eating some insane food. Like Velveeta grilled cheese. Like it was just that was the one that stuck out. I didn't write them all down, but it was just like fucking junk food. Probably just makes a lot of pot. Like, come on. But then it went the other way, and we find out that she used to have an eating disorder when she was a kid.
Yeah.
And somewhere this wire got crossed where she's like, oh, well, like food is bad for your spirituality, and so is sleep. And then her Faith and Hope were like, that's right. And that's why you don't get to eat.
Yeah, because she had,
so.
yeah, but Amy had said that told the people that the reason you need to kind of limit food and sleep was so that you could be more in tune with the vibrations of everything.
Right.
Which is like, okay, but like you said, I didn't mention the eating disorder thing because I think maybe it's something where all the kind of combination of drugs and booze just kind of crossed her wires a bit where she kind of rescinded back to that.
But again,
that's speculation, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of speculation in this episode because they were like, we don't know, like she didn't go to therapy, but I feel like we know she had an eating disorder, and we know she's the one who said that food and sleep hold you back. But we also know that the instructions on what to feed her came from Robin Williams, which was coming through Faith and Hope, and so they were deciding. And so when they see her wasting away, they had the ability to fucking give her more food. And I feel like there's this thing of like, I don't know how to explain it because I don't want to say it's not Amy's fault. It is this part, but it's like when someone has an eating disorder, you could want more than anything in the world for them to eat and be begging them to eat, and they would find reasons not to. If they have an eating disorder and you are just like, that's right, here's one single fucking peanut or whatever, you're gonna fucking die. And she did. And then you have this thing with late stage alcoholism, right, where you can't really eat.
Yeah.
And we know that she died of alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
Her liver failure, well, it went into full organ failure, but her liver failure was like the whole reason that she couldn't walk. Like she literally was paralyzed. She drank so much.
Yeah.
And since like this weird thing where I feel like some of it was just like, wow, you were enabling the fuck out of this woman, but that makes sense for a cult. And then there's this other side where it's like, now hold on. She said she wanted to go to the hospital. She begged your own words. She begged to go to the hospital, and you didn't take her.
Well,
Williams told you not to.
Well, because they several people said it was because there was a spirit inhabiting her that wasn't her. Several people said that on top of the Robin Williams thing. So it was like this reinforcement of those two things. Like Elmoira said, like, yeah, that wasn't her. That was a spirit coming into her, telling her that she needed a doctor or needed to go to the hospital.
But
and
see,
then
the other, she's fucking God. Right. You know?
Yeah. And
so what I think my hot take is that she was a figurehead and the cult was being run by Faith, Hope, and Michael.
Whereas I was considering that because when she started declining, like really declining, that's when Jason kind of became more assertive. But here's the thing. I think now that you say that, I agree that maybe they were running it because Jason was not smart enough to run it.
Well, and the thing is, he became more assertive, but he was the one who sat in the back of the vehicle with her and made sure she was. He said they were just going to throw her in the back of the fucking truck. because she's paralyzed, so it doesn't matter. And he's like, no, we're going to get her beanbag that she likes, the blanket that she likes. She's going to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And he was the one who would pick her up and carry her and all this. And I'm going to say this, like, again, super infantilizing, but she couldn't fucking walk. So, like, whatever. And it's very weird. Like, Michael got everything in the end. All of the money, all of the property, he got everything. And Faith and Hope left with the cult. They got the cult in the end. They're still running.
Yeah. I would also like to point out that Jason was asked this question, and his response kind of fucking threw me back a little bit because it sounds really fucking evil. Because the interviewer asked, when did Amy's health start to decline? And his response was, hell, as soon as I got home, I brought all the darkness home. That's why I killed her energetically. And I was like, Jesus, dude, are you trying to make yourself the fucking villain here? Because holy fuck, that is a dark fucking thing to say.
But here's the thing is, like, to me now in context, that's just really fucking sad. Like, and I think you hear this. I haven't developed this thought because it just occurred to me. Sorry.
That's okay.
End of episode 1.
Develop it live. Let's go.
Fuck it. We'll do it live.
We'll do it live. Bill O'Reilly in the house.
That lady says, if he hadn't come into the picture, she'd still be alive. And then you get all this, like, everybody hated him, which, like, fucking legit. Like, he was not a cool dude. Like,
He was a shithead, yes.
I think maybe he's the scapegoat.
I could see that now. Now that, like I said, initially as I'm watching it,
drug addicts are not known for, like, large amounts of self-love.
Yeah.
So to hear him say that, it's like maybe he had this sense of, like, if he believed even a percentage of what she was saying, and then, like, he's causing her all this distress, she's kicking him out, she's taking him back, kicking him out, taking him back. Maybe he really believes that. And then everybody else is like, yeah. Because when they said that at the end of episode 1, I thought we were going to find out that he, like, kept pushing the cult further, right? We got to make more money. We got to do this. We got to do that. But in reality, he was just an asshole. Being an asshole doesn't kill people.
Mostly. Depends on what kind of asshole you are.
Something else. Like, the thing that kills somebody could be a product of you being an asshole. But it's not just simply being an asshole that kills people.
Yeah, that's fair. I think what is really, and I'm going to use the word interesting, it's probably not the right word, is just all the justifications these folks made for not getting her real help when she asked, when she said, when she begged for it, when she questioned, what if I'm not God? What if I made it all up? And they all just like, oh, no, that's not her. That's some spirit moving through her. And then Faith said, yeah, I wouldn't take her to a hospital. No way. I would go to a hospital. Like they just made it like, it reminded me a bit of, remember in Fight Club where Ed Norton's like telling them to not do stuff. And they said, you told us you would tell us that. And that's what it kind of reminded me of.
Here's the thing, and this is what's really fucked me up about this documentary, is because there's not a lot of information about what her teachings were.
Mm-hmm. No, there's not.
And so it's like, did she tell them that medical care was bad? Because if she did, then it's a little bit like, oh, you fucked up. What if she didn't? What if they decided that medical care was bad?
Yeah, we never got a direct. We got some where she was saying things like colloidal silver and here's all these supplements, but that also wasn't feel like it was her. It felt like it was like a collection of books.
The whole thing, like that was Faith and Hope running the fucking live stream, selling shit, and Michael. And that's why I'm like, there's just this shit where it's like, now
Faith was not in the live stream. Aurora and Hope did the live. But Aurora and Hope were doing that, and Faith, I think, was like, I think you're right. I think she was really the pusher of that stuff.
Yeah, but anyway, so colloidal silver again is like this major thing in New Age circles. The ones who get that far into like, don't go to the doctor. And here's the thing that was really upsetting is like you see this episode of the live stream where they're like, mom's drinking a half a liter of colloidal silver a day, and everybody's worried because they saw that guy who turned himself blue, and everybody thinks, which I knew who they're talking about because the dude literally looks like Papa Smurf. It's really fucked up.
Yeah.
He did like the toxic circuit. He ruined it for everybody. That's not really a thing. Colloidal silver doesn't really do that. And then she's fucking blue. She turned herself
Yes.
blue. Oh, by the way, that's spoiler alert. They go to Hawaii and she's blue. Um,
Yeah, they are. We got to talk. They're going to Hawaii at some point, which is an interesting
she
thing.
turns herself literally blue, and they don't stop now. And this is where it starts to feel like they're running shit because they have their. That's not true. Colloidal silver doesn't really do that. And then she's blue, and they're like,
yeah.
And
they keep telling, and the thing is like they see her. She's emaciated. She is skin and broken bones.
Yeah, there's no muscle left. This isn't like, yeah.
Yeah, like Jason carries her around everywhere.
And she's got her arm around him, but she's not holding on. It is like
no, it's just draped. Yeah. So she is really, really, really just precipitously declining.
And this is where it gets really hard to watch. And well, you see the decline before this, but I'm saying like in general, and like her sister is watching the live stream like every day, watching her die. She reaches out to her kids, like she knows she's dying.
Yeah.
She reaches out.
Yeah, she has 3 kids, and she reaches out to all of them. Yeah.
And her sister says like, "We'll come get you," and she says no because it takes 4 people to take care of her, and she doesn't want to burden them. And again, that to me doesn't sound like somebody who's all in. That sounds like somebody who's like, I'm not going to get better. So why would I, go burden these people I've hurt so much?
Yeah. Well, there's a part where now the Galactics, quote, air quotes, tell them they need to move to Hawaii. They need to take her to Hawaii. Why? That's never explained. Just need to go to Hawaii, right? Hawaii is where shit fucking really, really, really fucking starts to super unravel for me. At least.
That's the other thing that was really weird. They said that when she started losing weight rapidly and her skin broke out in boils.
Yeah.
That one's weird for me. I can't connect that to anything that I know of unless they're exaggerating because alcoholism can cause like really bad psoriasis.
Yeah, I mean, they showed photos of her, like her back was covered in boils and things like that, and it was not pleasant to see.
Yeah, I just wonder if it's like, what the fuck else were they giving her? Like, I hate to be like conspiracy theory about a conspiracy theorist, but it's like, what else were they giving her? Colloidal silver does not make you break out in boils.
No, it just makes you blue, apparently.
Yeah, and it doesn't cure you, so you die. But colloidal silver isn't the thing that killed you.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. So Hawaii, they get there.
And it was actually. Now you say I believe it was Faith who said, "I don't know how well she could control what was being put in her body."
And that's why they were doing it for her, I guess.
But I mean, like the implication being that like maybe she didn't even fucking know what she was being given.
I doubt she had any idea. Just the way they would hand it to her and she would just start imbibing it, whatever it was. Like it just seemed like she was just taking whatever they would give her. The thing that interesting to me is they moved to Hawaii in the middle of the pandemic in July of 2020. Like, how the fuck are you going? Like, why are you doing this?
I mean, people were doing weird shit. Like, I live in a place that people moved to during the pandemic, and I wish they would leave.
You wish they would move back?
Yeah, go away, please.
Yeah. Well, while she's in Hawaii, obviously her sister and her family are concerned. This is the funniest part of this whole thing. And I'm saying funny, it's sad, but funny. And you messaged me and you were like, what the fuck? Like, you were watching it because I'd already finished
it. My notes in all caps. Can I spoil it?
Yes, please do.
in all caps, one entry into my notes. Dr. fucking Phil. Oh, this is a great question, Zach. I don't know. But March, you said March 2020?
That's what, no, it's in July.
July. So we would have been.
So that was when things were locked the fuck down. So I'm not sure how they pulled that off.
Yeah.
Unless they did like a private plane.
Here's the thing is that if anybody in the cult owned property in Hawaii, it would be tourists.
Fair. Yeah, we didn't know if anybody did or not. So
because everybody gave everything to her. So
yeah,
that's interesting, Zach. I kind of wish that I would have thought of that so I could have looked into it because I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I didn't either.
They flew on the back of the Galactic. John Lennon dropped them off. Duh.
Yeah, Ashtar fucking picked him up and dropped him right off. Well, the Dr. Phil thing fails fucking spectacularly.
Oh God, like because it turns out that he doesn't care about helping people. He cares about what he thinks makes good TV.
Yeah, and he's not a fucking doctor on top of that. So like he's not a doctor. I don't know. It's like Dr. Dre. Like, how the fuck did you get the doctor moniker? You didn't earn it. But
I was under the impression that he had been, but he lost his licensing or something like that. But
that wouldn't surprise me at all.
That's worse than just but anyway.
Yeah, if you just were like, hey, I'm the doctor, like Dr. J, okay. But yeah.
Mr. Phil. Here's the thing, okay? If you're a therapist, if you're not a psychologist, you can only call yourself a psychologist if you have a doctorate. But if you're a therapist or a counselor and you imply you have a doctorate and you don't, you get your license revoked.
Mm-hmm.
You're not allowed to do that. So actually, maybe that's what happened. Maybe I'm like conflating it. And he said he was a doctor. And they're like, no, you're not. Now you don't have a license. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah. So the show appearance, like I said, doesn't go well. But what it does is alerts to the people in Hawaii where she is and who she claims to be. Would you like to tell us who she claims to be? Because this is what really puts Hawaiians on.
Pele. And oh my God, the Hawaiians don't like that at all.
No.
Not even fun of it.
Yeah, way to take an indigenous god of Hawaii and claim you are them.
And then the protesters are like, you abandoned your children, you fucking bitch. Like, it was intense. They were like, she said she was who? All right, give me all the dirt on this bitch. I'm ruining her life. I'm ruining it right now. That is some of the nastiest protesting I've ever seen.
Yeah, like, they were not nice.
The people who show up to block Westboro Baptist Church from funerals are nicer than these people were.
It was rough.
And granted, like, I guess different context, right? You want to be you don't want to make the funeral worse, but still, it was like, damn, they are hitting below the belt. It is not good enough to tell her, fuck you, you're not Pele.
That's a fair point.
You're a terrible mother. Go home to your children that you abandoned, you whore. Like,
it was bad.
So just, for your info, if you're going to go be a cult leader in Hawaii, leave their indigenous traditions the fuck out of it.
Yep. Just keep to yourself and keep your people to yourselves and you'll be fine. You don't need
Hawaii didn't like the Source family either, and they were just hanging out. They weren't claiming to be anything.
That's fair.
Don't go to Hawaii if you're running a cult. Oh, Lori Vallow didn't have a good time in Hawaii either.
No, she did not.
Hawaii is the antidote to cults.
Ooh, I like where you're going with this.
It was bad, Doug says, as he sips.
It was not a nice tea. It's an alcoholic drink.
Coffee, first of all.
It's vodka and coffee liqueur, Zach. You missed that whole thing.
Here's the other thing. So we didn't get into this, and I want to a little bit.
Okay.
Oh, here's the quote from her son. I pitied her, is what her son said about her.
Yeah.
A lot of people, including people who were not involved in the cult, described Cresttown, where they were based, where they ended up, all of that, as like a really fucking weird place. Like, people claim to see UFOs there all the time. There's tons of new age shit. It's kind of like Sedona, but crazier. And there's like they say at some point in one of the episodes that, like, basically they were kind of surprised by the reaction of the people in Oregon because in Crestone nobody really noticed because everybody in Crestone's really fucking weird.
Yeah. Also, they said one of the things they said there was the veil is thin in
Yeah,
Crestone.
yeah, the veil is thin, and whatever. Like,
Very Stephen King. Very Stephen King there. Thank you of that.
I'm not gonna shit on that because it's
Neither.
whatever. Like, I live in a place that people say shit like that about, and I like it here. And there probably are cults out here. Like, I met somebody in Massachusetts that said that his sister was in a UFO cult out here, and he wouldn't tell me her name because she was also maybe murdered somebody.
Zach,
Zach!
What the fuck, man?
Your uncle lived in Crestone and had a funeral pyre? Like, was this like supernatural? Like, you have to burn him so that he can't haunt people? Or did he think he was a land Viking? I'm gonna need more.
A land Viking?
Well, I know what Viking. I don't know. Apparently, you tell me funeral pyre, and I think of the TV show Supernatural and Vikings, and nothing else.
Okay, that threw me. Sorry.
Sorry.
Land Viking.
This explains so much, Zach.
Oh, Zach. At some point, Zach, you're going to be on Brothers and Booze soon, and we're going to have to hear that whole story. So just forewarning.
Zach, I want you to tell a story about the time you met the Colorado Sasquatch, whether or not that's a story you currently have. Like, you can make it up between now and when you're on.
Yeah,
I believe
you take some time, write it out.
God, I got really thrown off by that.
That was great, though.
So they go to California again.
Then they go back to Colorado.
Back to Colorado. Then they go to California, but Aurora, Hope, and Michael stay back in Crestone to
run the business. To run the business. Yeah.
And then this is where we're here. She's reaching out to family. She's saying her goodbyes. Like, there's nothing more to that, right? Like, that's your Occam's razor. She's reaching out to her family. She knows she's going to die.
Yeah. Also, I've been in California, LAX, and to San Francisco, but they talk about Mount Shasta and as being like some sort of new agey sort of locus for that sort of thing.
No, because I grew up near Mount Shasta-ish, and I never heard that, but I know that it makes great soda with the water from Mount Shasta. It's called Shasta soda.
Okay.
Super cheap. It's like you buy it at the dollar store.
Okay.
And you're like your 6 packs of Dr. Thunder or whatever.
Oh, that yeah.
And but they don't sell 2 liters; they sell 3 liters. So when I lived on my own for the first time, I always had like giant fucking bottles of Shasta Cola. That's what I associate Mount Shasta with. I had no idea that supposedly there was like ghosts and aliens there.
Well, now you know. Maybe that's what makes the soda so good.
Exactly. It's the reason that discount soda is so delicious is because the Galactics sprinkled magic powder on the mountain.
Robin Williams specifically. Or maybe Gene Wilder.
So when I was a kid and Robin Williams was alive, he was also actually a Galactic who was making the soda taste good.
Maybe he was part of it. We just didn't know.
Yeah. And Gene Wilder personally made my soda.
Well, he was Wonka, so he had like the sugar element to it. Something.
He and the Oompa Loompas.
So you're right. So they go to. I don't.
Now I just really want Shasta soda, and I don't think I can get it where I am. But yeah,
I know a guy who can get it.
I know a guy who can get you some Shasta soda.
Sorry, we got really off topic there.
So anyway, they're supposed to take her to the top of the mountain, and the Galactics are going to come suck her up physically into the thing. And I, if you haven't seen the documentary, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. That doesn't happen. Yeah. Robin Williams does not come in a ship driven by John Lennon. and take her from the top of Mount Shasta. It doesn't happen. She
No, it's not.
starts taking opiates and dies.
Yeah, she also, we talked a bit about like at this point, like even they're taking, like when they were in Hawaii and coming back and they were taking images of her, and just her face just is fucking blue. And she looks like a skeleton with a blue skeleton. That's the only thing I can.
Looks like, I can't remember how old they said she was at the end exactly.
45. She was 45.
Yeah, she looked about 60, 65.
Oh, I would say older than that. Like she really just did not look her age. But the thing is when you live a life where you are just drinking yourself silly every day, you are just
Not
ingesting as
eating.
many drugs as you can. What's that?
Not eating.
Not eating. And every time you see images of her, she has either a joint or a cigarette in her hand. She is not without.
I thought
Listen,
they were always joints, but I don't know. I wasn't paying that close attention.
could be wrong. Could be that. Like the other part is Jason. Every time he's interviewed, he's either lighting up a joint or a cigarette. Like,
Yeah,
he's never without it. And I just was like, to me, if you're doing that and you're just continuously ingesting things, like
well,
your body can only take that so long.
with nothing else.
Yeah.
Help. And the thing is, like I said, at a certain point with late stage alcoholism, you can't really eat. And I think that's how it ends up killing you, right? Is like there's nothing. Your body is constantly in a state of either withdrawal or failure.
Excess. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not eating, like nothing's soaking that up. You're not getting any nutrients. You're not. I mean, it's a fucking horrible way to die. Like it's a really, really horrible way to die. If you've never seen Leaving Las Vegas, first of all, don't. It's like the most depressing film ever made, but it's incredibly realistic, and that's part of the reason it's so depressing. Is like you watch this like physical decline that's really upsetting, and then add to it, right, that she hasn't been eating a good amount for probably years at this point.
Yeah.
Blue.
I mean, blue. People think we're exaggerating. No, she is fucking blue. Like it is
like
ugh.
like a silvery blue, but really
colloidal silver.
right.
Like
Look,
imagine
you blue. It's not working. That's not it.
Yeah, it reminded me a bit of like the makeup for the Tin Man and the Wizard of Oz.
Yes, but blue.
Yes, but bluish and just like that sort of oily look.
You're right.
Not quite like the Eiffel 65 song there, Zach, but
I don't get it. So.
You never heard "I'm blue, ba ba dee ba ba da" that song? That's what he's talking about. Oh my goodness!
Okay,
I'm sending it. Now we're gonna get copyrighted, but I'll send it to you later. So it's one of the worst. It is one of the worst dancey as quote unquote songs you could have. It's terrible, but I know what he was getting at.
So yeah, they go to Oregon because the Galactics don't show up at Mount Shasta.
Yeah, they keep telling her to move around. Which is great when you're a blue skeleton to move you around the country. Yeah. That's pretty awesome.
And Jason's like, she's not dead because he's in denial, guys. That's it. But everyone's like, no, he's right. So they keep giving her water
for 3 days after she dies.
I'm so upset by this because I know what happens when somebody dies. And so it's like, it's fucked up. It's fucked up. And then because they don't know what happens when somebody dies, when she goes into rigor mortis and then comes back out of it, they think she's coming back, but that's just how rigor mortis works.
I put that down too. Like, after 3 days, she became flexible again. No shit. Yeah, that's how that works.
That's how do you think they get the clothes on people at the fucking mortuary? Like,
also them using electromagnetic readings to prove that she's still alive. That
and they say that so fucking. And they're like, look, when I put my hand in front of her foot, it goes down his ear. It's so
weird.
So weird. And her foot, like, here's the thing. I don't know how many of our viewers at home have seen a dead body in real life. I I have, both inside of Morgan, outside of one.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a strange life, guys. You can tell that she was dead. They're only showing her foot. All you can see is the foot. Like, you can fucking tell she's dead. There's no question about it. The body is not, like, you can tell there is not blood flow. There is not movement. There is nothing. That is a dead ass foot.
Dead ass, as
Dead
the kids say.
Because the children say, no cat. That is dead. It's so fucking weird. And then they're like, well, we gotta get her back to Crestone. So they put her in the fucking car, wrapped in a sleeping bag, and fucking Christmas lights, because why the fuck not? Every week. I'm only here once a month.
maybe Zach is getting more lore on you than you realize. What's funny about this thing where they take her back to Colorado is the idea that they just have her wrapped in blankets and Christmas lights in the back of a vehicle, and they're just driving her.
Ah.
And even funnier, they get pulled over.
Yes!
They get fucking pulled over. And the cop thinks it's... Okay. All right, Zach. They pull them over, and the cop like, oh, that's somebody sleeping in the back. Cool.
Wrapped in Christmas lights, as one fucking does on a road trip, I guess. I came within seconds. Okay. Seconds. Because I've got all my Christmas shit out, right? Came within seconds of wearing LED lights wrapped around me to this show, but it felt too ghoulish. So I did.
Yeah. Not a Wes Anderson style.
No, much fucking darker and weirder than Wes Anderson.
Yeah, that's saying something. One of the things that I thought was really weird is after she died, like the one guy, John, your favorite non-military guy, said that he thought it was impossible for her to ascend without her body. I'm like, what did you think was?
Well, they thought, I think, that it was going to be like the Jesus story, like literally on a cloud.
Yeah. While they're driving back, they have to stop and they camp, and Jason sleeps with the body, like in a tent. In a tent.
Oh, I hate it. Okay,
so one of the we say one of the weirder things, and I say weird, but like not weird, just fucked up things. Like I said, there's a lot of fucked up things. Jason sends several of the people into town, whatever town is where they're camping, right, to do laundry, get a shower, take care of themselves, right? And that's when Jason says to John, Amora, and says, all right, we're going to Colorado right now. They'll figure their shit out, and leaves them. Just fucking leaves them. Like,
this is the thing, though, is where I fall on that. Jason, I don't think Jason wanted to control the cult. I think he just wanted to have control over whatever situation he was in. I don't think you give a shit about the cult. If you give a shit about the cult, you need those followers. You need them to come with you back to Crestone to be like, look, it's us now, you know?
Yeah. It just was like kind of, and it was funny. They were like, they came back and like, where the fuck is it? Like, they had no idea, like, what happened. Like, where are they? Like,
so they get back to Crestone. They move her back into her old bedroom. They make a shrine. They leave the body there. And Miguel is like, whoo, fuck no, man.
That's all in my name, motherfuckers.
Here's the thing is, I feel like, okay, I don't think he's a good guy.
Oh, he's very much not.
But I feel like he might be like, look, there's a point at which you know things have gone too far, right? He's not living in that house when they move back. So he stayed back with Aurora and Hope. He moved out.
Yeah, but then Aurora and Hope went on their journey to go find everything.
Right, but I'm like, he wasn't there. He was not a true believer at that point, at least.
No.
He I think, was like, this bitch is gonna die. I don't like it. Shit's about to get weird. I need to start covering my ass. And he was like, she told me to put everything in my name. I guess I'm gonna take it all.
Oh, I don't think she told him to put everything in his name. I think he was like,
I
I'm
think
gonna
she
put this in.
convinced her, but I think that she knew that it was in his name because it's this thing too. It's another new age thing. It's a thing like even I wouldn't even say it's new age because it goes like into some folk practices as well, like brujeria in Mexico City. Like you don't pay the brujas, you have to pay. I got like this weird cleansing there where a lady spit on me. It was a whole thing. I didn't know she was going to spit on me until like 2 seconds before it happened. But anyway, you go into the little witchcraft market, and like the brujas are always in like 2-story, um,
Buildings.
not buildings, like stalls, right?
Okay.
Like an outdoor market, and there's like always like some woman sitting down at the bottom of the stairs, and you talk to her, and she sends you up, and they do whatever they're going to do, and you come down and you give her money because you cannot pay the bruja. She cannot sell
Okay.
her services like as a witch. And so
Okay.
there's a lot of that in New Age circles as well that's like been pulled from these folk traditions that like you cannot give the money directly to the
Mm.
practitioner or to God, whatever. And so I think that there was probably like it was probably above board when it started and probably as it continued because she was getting whatever the fuck she wanted.
Yeah.
Um except for medical care. But then in the end,
There's that.
this is all falling apart and I need them out of my house and I need to not be a part of this anymore. He took everything. I kind of just can't okay. I don't feel bad about it.
I don't either. And like, yes, he was shady, but he wasn't like anywhere near the worst person out of all that, like to me.
But it's just like he was with her from the beginning and he never took a leadership. It's kind of weird. Like, so he wasn't Father God, or if he was, it was so brief that it would like that no one even knew what happened.
No, but he was archangel. So archangels are like kind of in that second tier. So he was
Yeah,
not
that's
far
just like
below.
he wasn't. It didn't seem. I don't know. Like if you had that kind of power and you'd have been around that long, like you could pull a lot of strings to get what you wanted.
Yeah.
He was always a background player right up until they move a dead body into a house that's in his name. And what are you going to do? Like, here's the thing: you let that happen in the house that's in your name. Like you were implicated.
Yeah. And he went to the cops and he was like, I didn't know they were going to do this. And he probably didn't. I doubt he thought they were going to bring a fucking body back, like a dead body. Hey, let's
I
fucking
feel
make a
like
shrine here.
probably what he thought was going to happen was she was going to die. They were going to realize she did not ascend,
Ascend.
and everyone was going to go, "Oh no, we were wrong." Because I think that there was a part of him that always knew that it was bullshit, and so like maybe like there's a part of him that's like, okay, so they don't know it's bullshit, but they'll figure it out, right?
Right.
That's my guess. He didn't participate in the documentary, so we don't get like a lot of firsthand.
No, he refused to participate. So yeah.
I think that, but that's to me supports my theory a little bit that he's just like, I don't want to have shit to do with this. It like it got too weird, guys.
Yeah, he might have thought this was interesting and went into it and was like, okay, well, I can control things here. And then it's like, okay.
Well, it's just like, okay, so it's a business opportunity. It's some stuff that I'm into. It's cool. And then like it starts getting out of hand and you're like, fuck, this is like my income. I don't know what to do. I'm in too deep. And then it's like, okay.
That was a nice out. They left. Awesome.
Right. And it's like, but now there's a dead body. What the fuck do I do now? That's really how
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know.
Yeah, because he kind of took all the money. Well, he took all the money out, and they said it was about $330,000.
Yeah.
Not a small amount of money.
That's what they said.
That's what they said. Now, how much was actually there? We don't know. My favorite part was that he dissolved all the websites.
That's kind of where I think that he was just like, this needs to fucking stop. Like, that he believed it would stop when she died, and it didn't, and he's just like, pooh, scorched the earth, because like the websites, what does it have to do with shit?
Yeah. Well, so now the cops had the body, right? They arrest a bunch of people. They do an autopsy, and I think it's funny is like they were expecting, like, I forget who said it. They were like, "Boy, I can't wait to do this. I want to see what they come up with the three hearts."
Yeah.
Like I was like, they're not going to find that. What they did find was that she died from alcohol abuse, anorexia, and colloidal silver ingestion. So it was like a combination of three things that led to everything failing. So you didn't get your three hearts theory. Sorry, my fella.
Just three really deadly things that would kill anybody on their own. Like, yeah, ooh.
Yeah, and honestly, the fact that she survived as long as she did is kind of weirdly a miracle.
I feel like, okay, this is going to sound fucked up, but I mean this not as a joke at all. I feel like there's an element of like pickling that happens with people. My grandfather smoked every day of his life, ate like fried bologna for breakfast and fried steak for dinner, like every fucking day, and was a raging alcoholic. And his doctor literally said that he believed that that is why my grandfather lived to be in his 80s.
Did they say that? Did they say if he had stopped doing that, that would have killed him? Because I've heard that before too.
Well, probably the drinking at that point, because he had been like an alcoholic for like 60 more years at that point. So probably yes, that quitting drinking would have killed him. But they're saying like basically because alcohol thins your blood and all these fried foods and all of this thickens your blood, and he was just like in this really fucking weird, unhealthy cyclical canceling out.
Huh. Interesting.
And I'm not saying like I'm not saying that that's like a normal outcome or anything, but I'm
I
saying
don't think it is.
in a way, like to me, it's like, well, she lived as long as she did because she didn't like shock her body with anything when it started getting bad, and also just like I don't know. I don't know. Like I just feel like alcohol's a preservative. This is totally not scientific. This is just a weird thing that kind of makes sense to me, even though like I couldn't explain to you why it makes sense to me. I really think it was the alcohol. Like
Yeah, it
the
might have
alcohol is
been.
also what killed her. I'm not saying that, like but yeah.
So the documentary at this point kind of gets into post all this.
Let me tell you what I didn't see coming.
Okay, please do.
That John and Jason like live
Lived-
together and host a podcast now.
That is not something I saw coming.
I was like, fucking what? And then also that when all three of the girls moved to South Florida, and it looks exactly like the neighborhood I lived in Temecula. That was fucking weird. It's like they must have had like the exact same developers, like the fucking houses, like the fronts of the houses were like that same blueprint or whatever from
Yeah,
the version I lived in.
very development looking thing, right?
Yeah. I was like, are they in my old neighborhood? No, they said they're in Florida. I didn't like it.
Yeah, well,
where does it
there's
feel
a
that Buddha and Mary live together? Which I
yeah,
also felt was an odd pairing.
yeah, because he's like a young person of color, and Mary is like a 65-year-old white woman.
Yeah,
But
you're very
whatever. Hey,
old hippie.
yeah. There's also a whole contingent of the followers who moved to Vermont
Yeah.
and just live up there together. And
Well, they went there. Those people went there immediately, right? Like everybody got arrested, and they were like, "Fucking,
they're
we're out."
like, we're bugging out. We're not getting arrested too. They were like, get the
Yeah.
fuck out. So yeah. Well, we have some other things like we have Faith is now Faith works as a healer in Colorado. That was the whole thing. Oh,
Faith
she's a
is a
healer.
faith healer.
Yeah, so that was kind of weird. Aurora and Hope do a 5D spirituality web series. Hope does reconnect with her mother, which is weirdly interesting.
So weird. Like, well,
And still talking about mom. Not her actual mom.
Yeah, so this is what I feel like though, and this is why I again don't really feel like it was Amy running shit because when you hear about people not wanting to hurt their family, it was not at her direction. It was just like, well, you don't get it. Uh,
Well, I will say Hope slash Ashley, her real name is Ashley, is one of the most immature people I saw in this entire documentary. Like she was just, wow, fuck that. Maybe like that was her fucking kind of approach the entire time. And I was like, you sound like you're a 12-year-old kid.
so fucking fake. Like it's that thing of like when she's like, and they're gonna tell us this, and like this is gonna happen, and fuck no. And it's like all bravado and no, like that's not how she really feels. She's fucking terrified.
Yeah. Uh, One of the things is so Aurora and Hope have this 5D show, and their slogan on their website is uh, WG1 WGA, which is "We Go One, We Go All," which is a QAnon slogan.
I didn't notice. But
Yes,
again, like they said in like episode 2, like, well, all these QAnon people, like they've accepted Mother God, they just don't know it yet. And it's like
yeah.
that's not how accepting things works, but
Yeah.
okay.
So they are all in on the Q stuff still. That hasn't changed. Um, Obviously, Miguel. What I thought was interesting was hearing that two of Amy's kids, Cole and Maddie, are doing fairly well. Like you said, they seem really well adjusted for the fucking shit they were put through.
Cole seems pretty fucking pissed, which like duh. But
For
he's like
sure.
to say he's going to like University of Chicago or something like that.
No, he's studying microbiology in Germany.
Oh, in Germany, that's right. Sorry, University.
My good on you, dude.
Yeah, and then like
And stay there. Stay the fuck out of America. Good for
right?
you.
In Germany, they don't tolerate Nazis, oddly enough. Um, and then like the youngest daughter.
Maddie.
Oh, okay. The other daughter though is like she's doing like TikToks about her mom, the cult leader.
Yeah.
But it did seem also like very, I don't know, it didn't seem like, oh, this is a girl who's got shit to work through. It seemed like she's worked through this quite a bit and can talk about it openly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Maybe that's just what I want to believe, but I think like probably the best thing that happened to them is that she got up and left.
Well, yeah, considering what she turned into.
But I mean, even
I'm not sure they would have great lives if she would have tried to been somewhat sort of in the mix because yeah.
well, they said like the the mom would visit and the kids would be, not fed and dirty and being neglected for days on end.
And the mom said they were with her all the time and she didn't know where her daughter was half the time. And yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's sad to say because you don't want to ever say that like you want parents to be in their kids' lives, obviously, but you don't want them to be in their kids' lives regardless of how shitty they are. So
Yeah. As a person who grew up without their biological father around, the abandonment issues are not things that go away easily. So that's why I'm second as somebody who had their biological father being not involved at all.
yeah,
And yeah, they seem more well adjusted than I was. So
I think it's just like it's degrees, right? And it's going to depend on like the specifics of the person too, where is it better, what level of involvement is best and what level of involvement is worse. But yeah, she shouldn't have ever been anybody's mother. But I do think that that's part of what she was working through in a really unhealthy, fucked up way. Is
yeah,
like, these terrible relationships that mimicked her own childhood and leaving her kids and like maybe not even being able to understand that she felt like shit about it.
yeah, it's quite possible. Which maybe why she drowned herself in alcohol and fucking drugs. Like, yeah,
Yeah, like I want to say like she's a very tragic figure to me, but also all of it was of her own making,
well, maybe
at least to an extent.
Yeah, to an extent. I think her youth with the abusive upbringing didn't help, but yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. That's what I mean. Like, but we talk about this a lot, right? Is like at the end of the day, you're influenced by all these different things, but you're responsible for what you do, even if you are mentally unwell, even if you're an alcoholic, even if you're in a cult, like whatever it is, right?
Right.
So, and that's it. It's like I think I do feel like she was a figurehead, not the person in charge, and I feel like
Mhm.
the people in charge killed her via their actions, not like murder, but
Yeah.
but I also think that they would have never had the power to do that if she wasn't so eager to get that like following and adulation and validation. So it's
Yeah.
like
Sure.
very weird. I felt very sorry for her through most of it. Usually you get to a point in these documentaries you just feel angry at the cult leader. Whereas like
Mhm.
this was just like, I'm not angry at her. I feel like she wanted out and they wouldn't let her go.
Yeah. And I will say that at the beginning bit, where the cult first started, I didn't feel bad for her, but I definitely did later on.
But at the beginning of it, it was just like she's like a hippie guru person who like you come and do drugs with her and fuck on the floor and
Yeah.
that's pretty much it. Which is not a
Yeah.
lifestyle I recommend in the long term, but like it, like that would we wouldn't be covering it if that's all it was.
Yeah. Fair point. So,
Yeah, yeah, exactly, Zach. Just like her son.
yep.
And to
Good
think like
point,
you
Zach.
have every reason in the world as her son to just be enraged and that but that felt very true. That felt very honest. That like he wasn't mad, he just how sad is that?
Yeah. So anyway, that is Love is One, the cult of Mother God.
It kind of lost in this case.
Yeah.
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 Also, did you
So
have like a weird feeling watching this where every time they said it, it felt like really cognitive. I had like a lot of cognitive dissonance every time they said love is one because that like sounds like um LGBTQ rights stuff and it's super not in this context.
very much not. I just thought it felt super forced. Like every time they were like, "Yeah, you love us one," and like yelling, and I just felt like that was super forced. I didn't feel like that was spontaneous at all. So
Oh, agreed. But it's
yeah,
just like it was weird to because there's a lot of love wins um in the lead up to the legalization of gay marriage, and then this was like love is one, love is one, love is one. It's like, oh, this is weird.
yeah. So anyway, next week or next month, excuse me, I was doing the Zach next week. Um,
It was
we're
special
gonna,
one.
yeah, yeah. Next one is going to be a little bit of a departure from what we normally do. Um, what we're going to talk about is we warned them. This is a weird image to have on it, but basically, Renee, this is a group of folks who do a podcast that got in touch with us about maybe covering their things. And what do you want to say about what we're going to be covering? Because I have not listened to it
So
and I have
yeah.
not talked about it.
So the shortest version, I guess, is um I think we become aware in recent years of like the major issues with these like youth camp issues, like how abusive they are, how control like the ones to make bad kids good, not just like summer camp.
Yeah.
And this is one where a pastor was in charge and it became, I mean, it was just very culty and it went on long enough that people were being born in.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah. And so a good friend of mine, her, well, she's an acquaintance of mine who is in a relationship with a good friend of mine. Weird, whatever. Um, she works with this organization called We Warn Them that is dedicated to stopping this kind of abuse. And one of the members of that did this podcast and they reached out to us because that's what we do, right?
Yeah.
Um, And let me just look. I forgot the name of the lady. Oh, I feel terrible. Um, yeah. So Margaret Mayer is a survivor. She's done a podcast about it. It features other survivors, and she's going to actually come on and talk to us about it. So we'll be listening to the podcast, kind of doing the same kind of approach to the podcast as we do to these cults, but then we're actually going to have somebody who is an expert on it, who has been working with the organization, to talk it out. And we'll be able to ask questions like, sometimes we have questions about like, I wonder why the documentary didn't say this or did that or whatever.
Right.
We have a lady who did it, so that'll be really interesting. It's
Yeah.
a bit of a departure for us, but I think it'll be an interesting one.
Sure.
And yeah, you can find that podcast on like your favorite
Podcast apps.
podcast platform. We Warn Them is what it is called. Margaret Mayer is the host. And it's about a place called Freedom Village. And hopefully we will actually, that is hilarious, Zach. I was actually thinking about that while I was organizing this. Zach, you are not allowed to comment during that show. Thank you for
No, please refrain from doing that if you could, please.
But yeah, we'll get an insight that we don't get to have with these documentaries. And also, usually these documentaries are not made by survivors. They're made by documentarians who have access to survivors, which is a very different thing. So
Yep.
I think it's going to be really interesting. And I think we're going to have, I hesitate to say a good time, but an enriching time.
Yeah, an interesting time and being able to actually talk to folks who are in the middle of it. So that will be something, like I said, very much a departure from what we normally do. But that's good. That's not a bad thing. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, so we'll see you all next month. And
Yeah.
maybe there will be more Renee lore, but I don't know.
Oh man. So Renee, thank you so much for being part of this with me. As I said, it's always so much fun, and I really enjoy doing this with you. And thanks to Greg for kind of getting us in the same sort of headspace to do it. So, but anyway, we will see you next month. It will be February 7th at 9 p.m. And yeah, take care, everybody.